Well, why are tech workers unhappy? To talk about that, I'm joined by Pablo Listingart. He's founder and executive director of ComIT. Pablo, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Linda, for having me today.
It's ComIT, right? I said that right?
Yes, that's perfect.
I want to talk about what that is and the kind of work you do, but I always like to ask my guests about their own backgrounds and how they ended up doing the work they're doing. So tell us about that.
For sure. So my story actually started a while back in South America. I come originally from computer science, and after many years working in different big corporations like Microsoft and IBM, at one point I decided that I wanted to give back to the society in a way that was meaningful to me. So not only developing a website as a donation or a mobile application. So I started training people for free so that they could apply for jobs. And the funny thing is that I had 14 students, the first group that I put together, and 12 of them got jobs fairly easily. So after a couple of months, so I kept doing it for 14 years. And in the middle of that, I moved with my family to Canada. And so after a year being here, my wife told me, why don't you give back to the country that took us in? Why don't you start another organization here in Canada? And so we did. Basically, in 2016, we incorporated ComIT as a charitable organization. And from a couple of groups that we started training back in 2017, both in Kitchener and Winnipeg, then it expanded Canada-wide. We are now taking over 500 people per year from Prince Edward Island to Yukon and everywhere in between. So our goals has always been the same, to try to give back in a way that was meaningful to us, which was to help people overcome employment barriers.
That's really interesting. So this is a nonprofit, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And the people you're training, what ages and what backgrounds?
Well, we have people from 18 years old to 60, 65. We've been working with everyone who is in need, everyone who is unemployed and underemployed. That means that majority of the people who are currently applying to our programs are newcomers, refugees, but we work with born and raised Canadians who have been struggling to get their foot into the labor market. Back in 2021, we started the program specifically for Indigenous communities along with Google to try to spread the word about about digital skills. Sorry about that. Try to get people interested in digital skills, try to get people more involved into the tech professions. And we received over 2,000 registrations for those programs for Indigenous students, and we were able to take over 1,000 students since 2021. So the backgrounds are really, heterogeneous, if you want to call it that way. But we try to work with everyone who needs it.
It's interesting. Now, are you concerned that the tech sector is restructuring? Is that making much difference or?
Yes, I mean, everything changes all the time, right? I think we've seen, even during the pandemic, in the beginning of the pandemic, we saw a lot of layoffs. We saw a lot of changes because there was uncertainty in the world. Nobody knew how people would react to those changes. And then what happened was that a few months into the pandemic, a lot of tech companies realized that there was an opportunity, and so they hired a lot of people, and so it expanded a lot. And then we are seeing the contraction of that expansion from the COVID with companies laying off people. So I always see the tech labor market as waves, ups
Mhm.
and downs. I was talking with a lot of friends lately, telling them that you probably see on the news about a big company laying off 500 people or 1,000 people or 200 people. What you probably won't see is all the small and medium-sized businesses hiring one or two people or five people or 10 people. Um, so we try to work with everyone. We try to work with big companies hiring a lot of people or laying off a lot of people, and we try to work with the smaller ones. Um, and I think that it worries me a little bit when the news are constantly, negative. and how that impacts our population, how that impacts people who have dreams, right? Who wants to pursue a career, but they are scared. That is what worries me the most.
It'll be interesting to see how this kind of changes over the next year or two. Hopefully, we get through this. In the meantime, you've done a survey asking people how they feel about work in the tech sector. Tell us about that. How broad was this and when was it taken?
We ran it earlier this year in the beginning of the year, and we surveyed over 500 tech people from all over the country. We wanted to understand how they were feeling in multiple aspects, right? As I was mentioning in regards to how they perceive the tech sector is doing, what their experiences are, why they are deciding to move from one place to another, or why are they open to be hired abroad, right? And escape the Canadian labor market. Unfortunately, during the last couple of years, or even before the pandemic, many people were talking about how the US market were taking many of our talent and hiring our talent. And that has like many factors, right? Like it's because they are paying more, or because the companies were more interesting to them, or different things. Now we are still seeing 2 out of 3 people willing to accept jobs in the US, but on the other side, they are still open and willing to work here in Canada. What they answered to us was that the reasons why they were open to changes had nothing to do with the economical factor, which is what many people are saying, right? Like many people always talk about the tech people moving around because they are getting paid a little bit more, or similar stories that I've heard over the years. To be honest, a very low percentage of people answered that they were in tech due to the economical aspect of it. Most of them mentioned that they were motivated by challenges, meaning technical challenges, meaning being creative. They were looking to develop themselves, to learn things, right? To grow. Those were the main aspects why they were, pursuing a career in tech. So I think that in Canada, we have the opportunity to focus on those things, right? When on the other side, people are answering that the reason why they are looking for a change is because they have poor management. They don't see an opportunity to grow.
Yeah,
They don't.
let's take that one at a time, actually, because there's a lot of thoughts there. What
Yes.
occurred to me when I was reading through the findings is that people aren't happy. And it's interesting because it's not really just tech where you see this. You see this in all kinds of industries. And
Yes.
again, as you say, it doesn't just come down to the money. It seems to be, I don't want to say a failure of management, but a lot of people being really unhappy with management. Are there things in tech that make this situation worse, or do you think it's just managers who have or overwhelmed with how things are right now?
No, I think that historically speaking, we have an approach to leading teams that we are managers, right? So we manage people instead of leading them, leading with the example in terms of providing them with the opportunity to learn new things, to listen to the people and not just consider them part of my team, but me being part of a team of people where I have to listen. Um, and so I don't think that managers are just overwhelmed. I think that we are mistaken in the way that we approach how we are working with people. We have to listen more and not just tell them what to do.
And that's really difficult. I mean, I've spoken to other people about exactly the same thing. And it's kind of, I don't say it's a military style. I'm going to tell you what to do. And it's much more difficult to listen to what they say. Now, is that because companies don't train managers? Or is it because they train them to do that?
I think that we assume that that's the role, right? Again, it's a way of thinking. It's a way of living. It's just a pyramid where I delegate the task of leading the group, and then the other person assumes that that delegation means that they have to tell others what to do, how to do it, and what needs to be done instead of thinking, I'm working with a group of people with different knowledge, different roles, and there are other people who are the experts on some aspect of that work. And I'm not less of a manager for giving them the chance to shine, for giving them the chance to show the world what we can do, because it is in my interest as a manager that our team succeeds, right? Right, not just me. And that is a change of mindset that um, we have to pursue as a society, right? It's not easy.
No, it's not easy for sure.
If you're enjoying this conversation and want to bring insights like these to your next event, visit lindanazareth.com to book Linda Nazareth as your keynote speaker. Linda is an economist and futurist, and she is a dynamic and experienced speaker who has presented to audiences across a broad range of industries on the megatrends shaping the economy and the future of work. That's lindanazareth.com, or send an email to speaking@lindanazareth.com.
One thing that you mentioned too is that people are in this field because they want challenges, they want to be creative. The tech sector has been pretty good about training people and upskilling them. Are they doing enough? Or they're perceived to be pretty good compared to other sectors?
Well, it is one of the main reasons why people are thinking about the change. So I don't think that we are currently doing particularly well. Um, a majority of people mention that they have a lack of access to development, meaning training, meaning opportunities to learn on the job from new and interesting projects. They mentioned that there was a high turnover. So it was difficult to work with other people when those people were being laid off or they were leaving eventually. So I think that we are not doing as well as we were, but it's not that we can't change that back. Again, I think that there are many things that if we raise awareness, if we ask ourselves the right questions, it can be changed and it can be changed fast.
But it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that if you think people are going to quit, you don't invest in them. And you don't invest in them and you have higher turnover, and which is why I worry every time the economy gets weak, because then you see less training.
Yes, it's very interesting that you mentioned that because I had several conversations with different companies, telling them that they should invest in people. They should invest in training. They should invest in giving them opportunities, in giving them upward mobility, right? And because that's how you create people who are involved, who are interested in your company. However, for some reason, many employers think that if they train these people, they will leave,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I thought tech was better. Like there seemed to be a mindset that if you train them, you're training a workforce, and we'll have these people. I'm not sure if that's changed because things are tighter, or
I think that things are a little bit tight right now, and I think that also many companies are still kind of trying to understand how AI, for example, is going to impact their workforce. So they are not sure whether they should only focus on hiring senior people and then make them use the tools that are available and try to create, new products with only senior people. And what I've been telling many people that I work with is that um, if we do that, what we are doing is that we are going to have really well-trained people today. But if we don't invest in the base of the pyramid, then in a couple of years, we are going to be in a bigger issue, right? Because we will still need those people to use the tools. Yeah.
I have to ask everyone about AI now, in whoever they are, whatever their subject matter is. When you look at tech, what do you think this is going to mean? It's a broad question.
It's a really great question. I was meeting with the CIO last week and we had this conversation. My personal view is that I don't think that this is the apocalypse as many people think, that
Okay.
the AI is going to replace us all. I don't think that AI is our savior. Like many other people are like, well, you just need to learn how to ask the right questions and then that's it. I think that AI is gonna help us somewhere in the middle. in terms of the same way as 20, 30 years ago, we were all scared about people using internet to cheat, right? Internet was like the tool that the students were going to use to cheat on their homework or on their tests. And eventually what happened was that internet was boosting our talents, was, making us better. AI has to do the same. I was talking with a person who asked me that a couple of months ago, and I said the way that I see AI is that AI has to enable us to pursue our dreams, the things that we are passionate about, right? Like freeing our time from some of the tasks that can be automated and that we don't have to do. AI has to take care of that so that we can use our creativity and our skills to create new things, to be better at what we do and to pursue our passions. That is at least what I expect AI to do for us in the future.
You know what? I hope so. And I say that and I agree with you. But then I look at generative AI and what it can do, writing whole books and really doing whole jobs. And I think, well, maybe this is different than the internet.
Yes, it is. It is, and it is better. And that's why I'm saying that it should be able to help us in a lot more things. Some time ago, I read an article of a marketing creative who was using or trying to use AI to replicate a campaign from a very well-known clothing company. And so they asked AI and they prompted AI and they uh, kept evolving the prompting to the AI, and they weren't able to come up with that brilliant idea that they had for the original campaign. So I do think that humans have something different that might take a while for the AI to replace. So that's why I'm saying that we should be able to use AI to generate many things, write books, create images, create social media campaigns, do a lot of things. But on the other side, we should also train our critical thinking, our creativity to use all these tools in a different ways, in a different way.
On another subject, in your survey, you asked people about working inside cities versus being able to work elsewhere. And there seems to be a push to have some tech hubs that aren't necessarily in the biggest cities. Talk to us about that.
Yes, for many years I've met really talented people all over the world. And unfortunately, and I mean unfortunately because the system nowadays works differently, many of those people live in remote areas all over the world. And because of the way that we currently work is that we are asking people many times to be sitting right next to us, even though COVID taught us that many of the jobs can be done remotely and can be done in a different way. And there are some jobs that are not time critical and can be completed when internet is available, for example. We are still thinking in the old way, and we are leaving many talented people aside. So if we start thinking about technological hubs outside big urban areas, and we try to focus on other places where we have talented people who can access those places, or places where the quality of living is higher than in many urban areas. And not only that, we are giving people the chance to stay where they decide to be instead of forcing them to move to a place where they won't be at their 100%, then we should be asking ourselves is that if that is the right choice, right? And there will be a lot of people telling you that we have to do it for this reason or that reason. But again, it is about asking us the right questions in a time where we are reaching a really critical point in history in terms of talent, in terms of, inclusion, in terms of many different aspects, right?
I mean, the remote work question is really interesting because tech seemed to be pretty open to allow people to work from home. And recently, it seems like every industry has changed their minds about this. Everybody says get back to work at least 2 days a week. Fully remote seems to be gone. Do you think that that will change again?
I don't think that it will change. I think that it will become more a hybrid thing, as many companies are doing. We have experienced that even with our training courses, where we see people asking us to do courses in person. And then when we start an in-person course, then they realize that they don't want to attend there to a classroom for a long period of time every day. They would love to have some time alone and some time in a classroom. And I think that many companies are going to realize that as well, is that the best way to improve the way that people are working and their productivity is by, again, listening to what they need and not just to the models that we want to force on them.
Well, speaking of models we want to force, if you could do anything to the tech sector, if you could give any advice, what are the things you'd like to see happen?
The first thing that I would ask from the tech sector is to be more inclusive in the right way, meaning that we need to be more open to different ways. When I talk to different companies, for example, they mention the underrepresentation of women in tech. And historically speaking, many colleges and universities, for example, have 17% of women enrolled in tech careers, which is very low. For us in our courses, I see more like 50%. So it's not a lack of interest. It's not a lack, of willingness to learn. It's not, all the other things that are being said. It's mostly that we try to be, flexible in the way that we approach education, in the way that we approach the opportunities that we give to people. That means that when you are working with a single mom, they need to be able to pick up their kids from school. And the same with a single dad, right? What I mean is that we need to be flexible in the way that we work with our teams. So it's not a lack of interest in the digital skills, it's a lack of understanding from the tech sector and many other industries in the way that we treat people. And that is the first thing that I would ask from the companies to think different.
Think different. That is a tall order, but a nice place to end it. Pablo, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you so much, Linda.
Pablo Listingart is founder and executive director of ComIT.